Okay, so Victoria, I was going to try and finish the One Direction book, and I still can if this is too much change for you. But I just got back to my apartment today, and I was unpacking, and I found Backstreet Boys' book, and it, it was just too good. So school hasn't started yet, so I'm not super busy. So I think I'm gonna just start it, and we'll see how far we get. But yes, I think this is going to be much more promising than the remainder of the One Direction book. I think One Direction is a little too now, and I think the Backstreet Boys is an amazing. I don't know. It's the right amount of time has passed since the Backstreet Boys happened. Also, they're from Orlando, so there's that whole connection that we have with them. We've driven on the same streets as them, and we have possibly played on the same playgrounds, so we're very close to them. So, anyways, I'm gonna just start now. So it begins front cover. Look at them, and I'm gonna be totally honest. I don't know their names, but that's okay. I will find out, and you probably know already, but that's fine. There they are again in their 90s glory. I'm not gonna lie, I thought this haircut, the blonde one, was the most attractive haircut a person could have growing up. I thought if you had that haircut, you had it going on. Okay. So, the table of contents. Back is broken up into an overview, I believe. Oh, no. I believe it's broken up into three-part. This is a three-part volume. Part one, Take Five Boys, which I think is a play on words. Like, take five boys, like, we'll start up in a little bit, and then there are five of them, so if you take five boys, you get them. So I think that's what they're doing there, which is quite clever. And then underneath that is a personal file, Nick Carter. So they like take the five boys, and then they take the one boy, I guess, and then underneath Nick Carter, love and romance, which is pretty exciting. Part two, Down to Work, personal file, Howie Duro, Duro. Home is where the heart is, and then personal file, Brian Littrell, Battle of the Boy Bands, personal file, AJ McLean. Then part 3, BSB Conquer the World. And then underneath that, personal file, Kevin Richardson, awards and successes, UK and US discography / picture credits. I think it's interesting how they split up the five boys. Why Nick Carter is clearly the most popular one, which I did know. He's the only person I didn't know his name. Actually, I think I knew AJ too, but I don't know what AJ looks like. But anyways, we're gonna find out. So, without further ado, let's begin. Part 1. Take 5 boys. Or, take 5 boys. Okay. Here we go. Orlando, Florida, as anyone lucky enough to visit the place will confirm, is second only to Hollywood as America's home of the stars. Can confirm. I've grown up there, and when I go to Publix, all I see are celebrities. It's just so magical to be there. Not only can the Sunshine State's famous city boast the celebrity-packed environs of Disney World and Universal Studios, but it now has a brand new 5-star constellation. The Backstreet Boys have already made their mark on Planet Pop with snappy streetwise songs and 5 very different personalities, with 2 platinum two, and with 2 platinum albums to their credit, Brian, Howie D, AJ, Nick, and Kev are clearly already a major musical force for the new millennium. Critics may rank theirs an overnight success, but scratch the surface and you'll find that, as so often happens, the boys' current superstar status is not the result of luck, but the combination of talent and hard work on the part of a number of people, not just the 5 guys themselves. After their success was over, I went on to start I think it was like a burger chain. It's been fairly successful. And being Orlando based ensured that they were in the right place at the right time when the chance for pop fame finally came. And stardom for Brian, Howie D, AJ, Nick, and Kev is truly worldwide. For Britain, and to an even greater extent mainland Europe, has always had a soft spot for boy bands. From Wham to Bros through From Wham through Bros to Take That, East 17, and Worlds Apart. I don't know my boy bands. Young men with musical ambitions have always done famously in the UK. America's only archetypal boy band of the last decade to have made it big has been New Kids on the Block, of whom more later. Of whom more later. That's the sentence. Okay. Yet the tide turned in the States with the sad end of leading grunge band Nirvana, a teen spirit broken by the death of leader Kurt Cobain. As that musical door closed, a window opened for clean-cut pop. Oh. British bands quickly mounted an invasion of the American charts. Boyzone, 911, and the Spice Girls have all made an impact. But the homegrown talent of the Backstreet Boys has won the day. Let's meet the boys. The oldest is Kentucky-born Kevin Richardson, as talented at sitting at the piano as with his vocal cords. It's no coincidence that his 2 heroes are Elton John and Billy Joel, 2 famous piano men themselves. He'd moved to Orlando disillusioned with his lot playing with a covers band this was not written by a native speaker. He'd moved to Orlando disillusioned with his lot playing with the covers band in his native state to follow a dream of fame and fortune. While he waited, casual work at Walt Disney World paid for his board and lodging. He could be often found dressed up in the guise of Aladdin or a Ninja Turtle. They had Ninja Turtles at Disney? Maybe he worked at Universal too, but if there were Ninja Turtles at Disney, where'd they go? Why aren't they still there? The job wasn't without its hazards. On one occasion, he recalls, his turtle foot flew off while he was performing high kicks in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle review. Ever the professional, he went on with the show in his green stockinged feet. Kevin claims to have had a great childhood, the first 9 years of which were spent on a farm. He got his first keyboard in his freshman year of high school and spent his teens singing with the choir and hanging out at drama club. Combining his interests, he entered numerous talent shows and was often invited to play keyboards at restaurants and wedding receptions. Kev's mother, Anne, is a sales clerk, while he has 2 older brothers, Gerald and Tim. Their father, also Gerald, died aged just 49, and watching his health deteriorate over 10 months after he was diagnosed with cancer of the colon is something Kevin, understandably, will never get over. His mother and father were high school sweethearts, and the family, as a whole, are very supportive of one another, all of which helped them cope with the effects of the tragedy. It was his father, Gerald, who encouraged Kev to go to Orlando to establish a career in music. Until then, it looked as if Kev would go into the Air Force, but armed with his father's blessing, he followed his heart rather than take the rational option. The other boys gave Kevin the nickname Train because Once he gets going, there's no stopping him. The father figure of the group, he admits to being very serious when it comes down to the music and business side of Backstreet. BSB. Sorry. Where's Kev? Hey, Kev. I can totally see him being Aladdin, but I still want to know what happened to the Ninja Turtles. Howard DeRoe, who also goes by the name Howie D, is a native of Florida. With a Hispanic side to his family, he fancies himself as the most exotic member of the band and eagerly cultivates the image of a Latin lover. This does, however, have a downside, as he's inherited curly black hair that is not easily managed. I understand, Howie. I understand. Bad hair days are a frequent occurrence for Howie, and a sure way for the others to wind him up by tousling his locks. His mother, Paula, works in a school, while Father Hope, a retired police officer, is now Chief Code Enforcement Officer for Orange County, which means he checks people don't break neighborhood regulations, such as by having overly high fences. He has 3 sisters and 1 brother, Angela, Caroline, Pollyanna, and John, all of whom are now in their 30s. When was this written? Why do we care? First printed in 1998. So they old. It was Pollyanna, an aspiring star herself, who reportedly sounds like a cross between Mariah Carey and Gloria Estefan, who first got Howie seriously interested in the career in music. We need to look up Pollyanna DeRoe now. Howie made his very first bid for musical stardom at the age of 3, singing Babyface on his grandmother's bed, accompanying himself on a toy plastic guitar. These days, you can hear Howie's contribution to BSB in the form of what he describes as his high-flying falsetto. Born in Orlando, the youngest of the 5 half-Irish, half-Puerto Rican children, he is a professionally trained dancer who had worked in community theater, commercials, TV, and appeared in the movies Parenthood and Cop and a Half before pop stardom beckoned. Did I say pop and a half? It's cop and a half. I don't know what I said. It's fine. Like Kevin. Oh, did I show you a picture of Howie D? Here's Howie D. He has short hair in the picture. I don't see his curly locks being that much of a issue. Okay. Like Kevin, his cousin Brian Luttrell is also from Lexington, Kentucky. Nicknamed B-Rock, he is a huge basketball fan. Musically, he's very much into R&B. His favorite artists being soulful crooner Luther Vandross and Boyz II Men. And he admires any other artist with natural talent. The last to join the band, he found their strongly vocal-led and even a cappella sound suited his musical tastes just fine. Brian's previous working life had seen him taking on a wide variety of jobs, from burger bar assistant to wedding coordinator in a church. He was pulled out of history class in school to take a call from Kevin telling him about the band's audition. The next day found him on a plane to Orlando and boy band fame. His mother, Jackie, is a dental secretary. Father Harold works in computers, and his older brother, aged 24, is called Harold Baker Luttrell III. How dignified. That's all we know about him. Harold Baker Luttrell III. But Harold was very nearly ended up being an only child. Brian was born with a hole in his heart, and when just 5 years old, he nearly died of an infection. This is so intense. I had no idea. Having recovered from this near-death experience, his parents were told that, scientifically speaking, their son should not have survived. He had a temperature of 107 degrees, and his heart stopped beating. Said hair, I'm sorry. And his heart stopped beating at one point for about 20 seconds. Little wonder Brian is determined to make the most of every single minute now. He's back in the land of the living. Now that he's back in... it legitimately says, now that he's back in the land of the living! Exclamation point. Back home in Kentucky, both Kevin and Brian were involved with state and church choirs, as well as the local entertainment scene. They used to sing at family get-togethers, their favorite artists including Boyz II Men, Shy, and Jodeci? Don't know. Alex A.J. McLean was born in Boynton Beach, Florida, near Miami, Florida. I know Boynton Beach. And he has worked in the entertainment industry since he was 6 years old. Having brought the house down in his first acting role as Dopey in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, by 6th grade he'd appeared in 27 classic shows, including The Nutcracker, The King and I, and Fiddler on the Roof. While at junior high, he won a part in Nickelodeon's Hi Honey, I'm Home, so beginning a long-running relationship with the Nickelodeon and Disney satellite TV channels. AJ, who was just 12 years old at the time, first met Howie at a talent contest they both entered. AJ won with a 45-minute solo show, carrying away the prize money of $1,000, which he spent immediately. Wow, Howie was among the first to congratulate him. Oh, fantastic. An only child, Mother Denise and Father Bob, both involved in the computer industry, divorced when he was 4. AJ cites his uncle as a major influence on his life. He was a bass player through the 1950s band called Richie and the Rockets. Ooh! Though unlike the Backstreet Boys, the group never made it to the big time. I feel like maybe I watched a movie about Richie and the Rockets. I don't know. I feel like I've heard of them. Maybe I haven't. Maybe I'm going to be super embarrassed about this tomorrow morning. With Denise employed as the group's on-the-road publicist come tour manager, AJ sees much more of his mother than the other guys do of theirs, but her presence doesn't seem to have stopped the boys from showing off. He's probably the most striking image among the band members and is known for his tattoos, constant experimentation with his hair color, and a liking for cool shades. A self-confessed ham, he loves the limelight and can't help doing crazy stuff for no apparent reason, especially on stage. As proof, he recently appeared on stage as Batman, Batty, the Riddler, dressed in a green spandex outfit. The audience went wild, while his colleagues looked on in disbelief. This was written by a Brit. This was totally written by a Brit. Or a German. Printed and bound in Great Britain by Butler and Tanner. Yep, it's from London. Okay. There's the OU and everything. According to the rest of the band, he is also the funniest drunk. You're not finding that in the One Direction book. But we'll draw a veil over that. Nick Carter, the youngest of the famous 5, is fully 7 years younger than Kevin, and the only boy to be born in the 1980s. Yet from the outside, his abundant talent has meant his relative youth has been overlooked. Good. At least in musical terms. As a young child actor, he appeared in a TV series called Club Kids, and at the age of 8, he landed a part in the Andrew Lloyd Webber stage musical of Phantom of the Opera. Currently over 6 feet tall and still growing, Nick is the tallest band member. Some would also say the clumsiest. But that is also the fans' favorite. Luckily, this doesn't cause a problem for the rest of the boys. When the group formed, it was accepted that 1 or 2 of them would inevitably get more fan and media attention than the others, and it's all considered to be for the greater good of the band as a whole. The downside of Nick being such a fresh-faced, blue-eyed boy is that he hasn't been old enough to drink or go clubbing with the rest of the BSB, and he had to stay in his hotel room playing Nintendo. He used to get teased a lot by the others because he was such a baby. He was the baby of the bunch, but that doesn't happen so much since his latest growth spurt. He actually quite likes being the youngest and the attention it generates. With his sun-kissed blonde locks, Nick looks like a surfing dude, but in reality, he's a licensed scuba diver. Well, it had to be something fishy. Probably British humor. No, it just makes no sense. He has probably the widest musical taste of the 5, and as well as being a huge Oasis fan, also listens to Deep Breath, AC/DC, Bone Thugs, In Harmony, Criss Cross, Prince, Tom Petty, R. Kelly, Jodeci, In Trance, Lenny Kravitz, Mary J. Blige, and Nirvana. Phew! I'm out of breath. No, okay, not lying. Deep Breath and Phew were written in the book. Nick has always fantasized about being a pop star and is a firm believer in the American dream. The idea that you can accomplish whatever you set your mind to. Nick's mother, Jane, and father, Robert, used to run a retirement home. He has 4 younger siblings, twins, Aaron and Aang, Leslie, and BJ. Aaron is Aaron Carter. I do know that. Obviously. Never mind. While little brother Aaron, hang on. Leslie is a teenage model. That height gene coming into play again. Apparently nobody's tall anyway. That's not true. I've been there. I feel like there are tall people there. I'm confused by this. While little brother Aaron is already enjoying success in his own musical career. Having formed his own band at 8 years old called Dead End, Aaron recently signed a solo recording deal in Germany. He had a UK hit single, Crush on You, in December 1997, and also joined BSB on stage when the band played Berlin. So, how did the 5 get together? Credit for the concept of the Backstreet Boys goes to one Lou J. Pearlman, cousin of Art Garfunkel. He of Bridge Over Troubled Water fame and the taller half of the duo Simon and Garfunkel. It's like they think the people reading this are idiots. Lou is now their business manager and helps run the BSB company in which the boys have an equal fifth share. He brought in the management team of Donna and Johnny Wright, the partnership that thrust the 1990 chart toppers New Kids on the Block into the limelight to help turn his dream into a musical reality. They held auditions for attractive young male hopefuls to form a group to record for their label. But even their expectations were exceeded when the 5 Backstreet Boys were discovered. This is so long. Sorry. Rather like the Spice Girls, the future members of BSB had been hanging out in the same showbiz circles for some time. Although not yet best buddies, the wannabes had certainly made one another's acquaintance when the idea of a band was still just a twinkle in Lou Pearlman's eye. Nick had met AJ and Howie at acting auditions. They had filled slack time while waiting to be called by singing Temptations hits or songs they just heard on the radio. They had filled slack time while waiting to be called by singing Temptation hits or songs they had just heard on the radio. So, apparently they were all sitting in the same room whenever anyone needed to call them, and they all just sat there and sang. But you'd think they'd have, phones at their own house. Right. The trio then saw the Wrights' newspaper advertisement and promptly applied. So did Kevin and his cousin Brian. Even at this stage, Kevin had already been told by a colleague at Disney about those guys who harmonize all the time. The seeds of success had been sown. The 5 were brought together, and the Backstreet Boys were created. Since that time, of course, the guys have become good mates. Miraculously, especially when you consider the amount of time they spend together on the road, Howie, Brian, and Kev decided to share an apartment back in Florida. That is truly miraculous. Brian has subsequently moved out to share a place with AJ, though this is not thought to be the result of any falling out. Brian and Nick have become the best of friends despite the 5-year age gap. Brian describes his pal as the little brother he never had, though maybe little isn't the best of word to describe Nick these days. They are fixated on his height. And if you look at a picture of all of them standing together, he's not the tallest one in the group. I don't understand. He's so tall to them. Okay. They have been giving the names Frickin' Frack because they are always to be found together, the pair who mess around and consequently get told off by serious Kev. Brian considers Nick to be very mature for his age and doubts whether he himself would have managed to cope so well with the BSB phenomenon had he just been Nick's age. Happily, Nick has just as much respect for his fellow band members, explaining that the guys are the only real friends he has. Kevin likens the whole group to a family of close brothers. Apparently, there are occasional fights, but certainly nothing the average family doesn't go through. When fights blow up, it's Howie, the mediator, who tends to sort them out. Of the others, Nick is the practical joker, Kevin the down-to-business figurehead, and AJ the romantic flirt, and Brian the shy guy. Look out, though, for his uncannily accurate Jim Carrey impersonation, because with Backstreet Boys, it smiles all the way. Now, just to finish part one of this thing. Personal file. Nick Carter. Full name. Nicholas Gene Carter. Date of birth? 28th of January, 1980. He's an Aquarius. Place of birth was Jamestown, New York. His nickname is Nick. His height is 6 feet 1 inch. So he's like shorter than my brother / my brother's height. Okay. Weight 140 pounds. Eyes are blue. His hair is blonde. His hero is Ridley Scott, the film director. His heroines are Cindy Crawford and Sharon Stone. Did I pronounce that right? Heroine. No, hero. His hobby is Nintendo, because he can't go to clubs. Yeah, he's so young. Favorite food is pizza, and his favorite drink is cola. His favorite color is green. His secret? Amazing, given his current 6-foot stature. I have to read this without laughing. Amazingly, given his 6-foot stature, Nick was bullied at school for having time off for acting assignments. Later, he had his own private tutor on tour. Also, here's a picture of him. He looks like a woman. Really, truly does. So, yeah. And then there's also this one of him studly singing. Alright, that's it for now. Join us sometime in the future where we talk about love and romance. Lots of hugging. Lots of hugging. Hugging, and girls. More hugging. This is just a picture preview, so you definitely do not want to miss it. I don't have a sign off, but deuces.